the very moment my airplane landed and my best friend since we were 11 years old, Joey, and I arrived, I have 3 words to describe what I felt. I am home. I don't, by any means, have the answers to figure out how we're going to go and change this world, but I think that as Dr. Sri Vijay would say, in honoring the spirit of Mahatma Gandhi, that there really is only one thing to do. And as human beings, we get to choose to be the change. And I know that it's something we hear, and that it might not even, something might get lost on us in what that means. And for me, I realize that maybe I'll spend the rest of my life trying to understand what that means. Because we live in a world where this is not normal. We live in a world where you give somebody a hug like you give somebody here, and they look at you strange. And I don't know how long it will take us to make that shift, but I know that's all that I care about. And that if as many of us in this room were to be the embodiment of what is possible, if every one of us in this room were to give up our single biggest excuse, what would we do? And before, I'm going to share with you some of my story and some of my journey that brought me to here. But I want you to go and consider, because to me, a speech is only as good as the action that we take with it. If you come to VCon and you listen to the speakers and you meet the people, but you do nothing with it, then it is entertainment. And you may as well stay at home and watch TV. So I ask you this. I think you already have an idea of the first question. But I ask you this. Number 1, what do you want? What do you want? And I want you to be as specific as possible with that. You can answer it to yourself. You can think about it from now until 2 o'clock tomorrow, but to be very, very clear, what do you want? And number 2, what will you do every day from now until the next VCon? At least commit to that. Every single day to bring that about. Number 3, what's the biggest excuse you're going to make? Because until you know what that is, until you know what that biggest excuse is, it'll ambush you. It'll jump up on you. It'll sneak up on you. And you'll say, I'm too tired. I'm too busy. Something will happen. Something will go and get in the way. And they say, I've heard it said that awareness causes disappearance. So to name that excuse, to know what that excuse is before it arises, that is the only weapon that we have against it. So that when it comes up, when it arises in our mind, we go and say, I know you. And if I know you, then I can do something about you. And perhaps most importantly out of anything is to determine why. Why does it matter? Why do you care? Why does this goal, this dream, this vision for your life, why does it matter? You feel that why now, I'm sure, but when you go back home, will you feel it? That's what this is. I had no idea what this was before I arrived, but it is to go and charge up that battery to be able to go and last to that next stretch. Because it will be drained, and it will be taxed, it will be hard. To say it's otherwise is foolish, it's silly. It's not true. The hardest things in life are the things that are most worth having. Always. When I saw this mountain for the first time, this is a mountain in South America, Mount Aconcagua. So this is a couple years after we climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. This is the group I got to climb Mount Kilimanjaro with on Kili. So it's Aconcagua. It's one that people hadn't heard of as much, but it's one, like it was the biggest physical test of my life. And when I saw it for the first time, I thought, we made a big mistake. I thought, what did I get myself signed up for? And it was an absolute enormous test. This day was tied for the second hardest physical day of my life. It was 1,000 pull-ups through this ice field. Big ice pillars. So as I'm, hiking, literally was the whole day just stabbing into the ice, up this ice field. And it was just tons of like pulling up this ice field, like the whole way, pull-ups up these hours. I got to the top of this ice wall. And I remember as I'm getting closer to the top of it, physically exhausted, having drained everything. And I remember I was on a rope with my guide, Guillermo, and somebody yells rock. And a watermelon-sized boulder comes shooting past us, going maybe 90 or 100 kilometers an hour. If it had hit me or my guide, that would have been it. We both would have gone. And I remember I got to my tent that night, and I just laid there, and I cried. And I thought, why am I here? Why am I doing this? At this point, it already had a New York Times best-selling book. It already had a successful speaking career and business. I thought, why am I doing this? Why am I risking this? And I thought that next morning when I woke up that I was going to quit and I was going to take a helicopter out. Because I thought, if I give up my life, what is the point? Why does it matter? My resting heart rate would not go below maybe 130 beats per minute that night. I remember sitting there and praying, trying to breathe and meditate and thinking just I might not wake up and see the morning. I hadn't been afraid for my life in that way and really ever. And I thought for sure that, why am I here? I remember I woke up that next morning with plans to go and tell my group that I was going to quit. And I woke up the next morning, I saw the sunrise, and I was first of all, I was grateful for the fact that I'd seen the sunrise, that I woke up. And we decided to rest that day and just wait. And so I thought, I'm going to wait until I tell them, and we'll rest here today and tonight, and I'm going to quit tomorrow. And so I did, rested there that night, and I woke up that next morning, and before I told them that I was going to quit, I decided, you know what, I can do this. And on that summit day, this is our summit day, and our guides told us, they said that this is the most beautiful day that they'd ever seen in the mountains in like decades. The clouds opened, the heavens opened, gave us the perfect window of opportunity, and it still took everything that I had. But I realized that day something, I was like, that day was such a hard physical test, but I realized like the key and the secret that I found, and it's something that I continually try to go and remind myself of now. This is the secret that I talked to Henry about yesterday, and a secret that I hope has some effect on you. But I learned that like when I'm hiking and I'm down on all fours, I can only really see 3 feet, 1 meter. I don't need to look up at the summit. I don't need to look back and see the past and what I came to go and get here. Right now, 3 feet. On the clock, 3 minutes. I might be a couple minutes over that, but right around 3 minutes, right? That's it. That's what I have with you. I have 3 minutes. There's only that. There is only ever that. There is only ever the 3 feet. There's only ever that 1 meter in front of us. No matter where you are, no matter where you're starting from, that's it. With that biggest excuse that we want to go and take on, nothing else matters. That day, when I realized that, because I would look up and I would want to see the summit, and then I would think, nope, that's it. I'm going to bring my focus and my attention just here to this 3 feet. And all of a sudden, I would turn it into a game. And instead of sitting and resting and sitting there, I wouldn't allow myself to sit. I would take a break. I would do the 3 feet. I would do the 1 meter. And I would stop, and I would take a breath. And then I would do it again. 3 feet, 1 meter. And I would stop, and I would take a breath. And even that day, my gear was breaking. Things were going wrong. Everything was like stopping and slowing me down. But like I realized there that like that's all that I had to do. And now, getting to go and travel the world, some of my best friends, like it's not just about like mountains or whatever. To me, I want to go and experience every bit of what this life has to offer. And I want to be surrounded by dreamers who understand the same thing too. My friends, my brothers, my sisters, you have something inside of you. I have something inside of me that knows no limit. It knows no bound. It knows no fear. It knows no defeat from that enemy within us. And that with every thought that we have, we feed one or the other. We feed the lion or we feed the enemy. We stand in the middle. As human beings, we choose. Choose to feed the light, the potential, the limitless nature inside of you, the infinite, the eternal, and to see what happens. To look into the eyes of another and see that light inside of them reflected back at you. To seek that light in every interaction and see how quickly your world changes. Ask you again, what do you want? What's the single biggest excuse you can see yourself making? Why does it matter? And if that why is big enough, I invite you to consider to allow that excuse to die in your seat tonight, to leave it here.